Hello. Can you tell me what specific actions you'll take to address the costly consequences of illegal immigration while preserving the rights of those who seek to immigrate legally?
All right, Senator Santorum, let's take that question. But also, in the course of that question, express your opinion on what we heard from Governor Romney, that self-deportation or illegal immigrants leaving the country voluntarily is a possible solution.
Well, the possible solution is, I actually agree with Governor Romney. The bottom line is that we need to enforce the laws in this country. We are a country of laws. People come to this country. My grandfather came to this country because he wanted to come to a country that respected him. And a country that respects you is a country that lives by the laws that they have. And the first act when to come to this country is to disobey a law. It's not a particularly welcome way to enter this country. What I've said is from the very beginning that we have to have a country that not only do you respect the law when you come here, but respect the law when you stay here. And people who have come to this country illegally have broken the law repeatedly. If you're here, unless you are here in a trust fund, you've been working illegally. You've probably stolen someone's Social Security number illegally. And so it's not just one thing that you've done wrong. You've done a lot of things wrong. And as a result of that, I believe that people should not be able to stay here. And so I think we need to enforce the law at the border, secure the border. Secondly, we need to have employer enforcement, which means E-Verify. And then we need to have not only employer sanction, but we have to have people who are found who are working here illegally. They need to be deported. That is, again, the principle of having a rule of law and living by it. I am very much in favor of immigration. I'm not someone, my dad came to this country, and I'm someone who believes that we need immigration. We are not replacing ourselves. We need not only immigration to keep our population going, but we need immigration because immigrants bring a vitality and a love of this country that infuses this country with great energy. And so I support legal immigration, but we need to enforce the law. And in fact, if you don't create an opportunity for people to work, they will leave because they can't afford to stay here.
Speaker Gingrich, you've suggested that self-deportation, as advocated by Governor Romney, is, in your words, an Obama-level fantasy. Why?
Well, look, I think that, first of all, you should control the border, which I have pledged to do by January 1 of 2014. You should fix legal immigration in terms of visas so people can come and go easily, more easily than doing it illegally. You should also make deportation easier, so when you deport people who shouldn't be here, MS-13 gang members, for example, it should be very quick and very clear. You should have a guest worker program, probably run by American Express, Visa, or MasterCard, so they minimize fraud, which the federal government won't do, and you should have much stronger employer penalties at that point because you can validate it. I actually agree that self-deportation will occur if you're single, if you've only been here a short time. And if there are millions of people who, faced with that, would go back home, file for a guest worker program, and might or might not come back. The one group I singled out were people who have been here a very long time, who are married, who may well have children and grandchildren. And I would just suggest that grandmothers or grandfathers aren't likely to self-deport. And then you got a question. I offered a proposal, a citizen panel, to review whether or not somebody who'd been here a very long time, who had family, and who had an American family willing to sponsor them, should be allowed to get residency, but not citizenship, so that they would be able to stay within the law, but would not have any chance of becoming a citizen unless they went back home. I don't think grandmothers and grandfathers will self-deport.
Governor Romney, the few times, and I think it was only once, that they experimented with self-deportation, only a handful of individuals voluntarily left. What makes you think that that program could work?
Well, you've just heard the last two speakers also indicate that they support the concept of self-deportation. It's very simply this, which is for those who come into the country legally, they would be given an identification card that points out they're able to work here. And then you have an E-Verify system that's effective and efficient so employers can determine who's legally here. And if employers hire someone without a card or without checking to see whether it's been counterfeited, then those employers would be severely sanctioned. If you do that, people who've come here illegally won't be able to find work, and over time those people would tend to leave the country or self-deport. I don't think anyone is interested in going around rounding up people around the country and deporting 11 million Americans, or 11 million illegal immigrants into America. Now, let's look at, and I know people say, but isn't that unfair to those 11 million who are here and have lived their lives here and perhaps raised children here? But I think it's important to remember that there are three groups of people that are of concern to us. One are those that have come here illegally, the 11 million. The second is a group of people who are brought over by coyotes and who are, in many cases, abused by virtue of coming into this country illegally. And the third are the 4 to 5 million people who are waiting at home in their own nations trying to get here legally. They have family members here asking them to come here, grandparents and uncles and aunts. Those are the people we have a responsibility for. And the second group as well, those that are being abused, we're concerned about them. Let's focus our attention on how to make legal immigration work and stop illegal immigration.
All right, Congressman Paul, you're from Texas, the state with the longest border with Mexico. Is this a viable option, what we just heard?
Well, to talk about it, but I don't see it as being very practical. I think it's a much bigger problem. You can't deal with immigration without dealing with the economy. The weaker the economy, the more resentment that there is when illegals come in. If you have a healthy, vibrant economy, it's not a problem. We're usually looking for workers. Even under today's circumstances, a lot of businesses are looking for workers and they don't have them. They're not as well trained here. But also, the way we're handling our borders is actually hurting our economy because the business people, visitors have a hard time of coming in. I mean, we don't have a well-managed border. So I think we need more resources, and I think most of the other candidates would agree we need more resources. But where are the resources going to come from? I have a suggestion. I think we spend way too much time worrying about the border between Afghanistan and Pakistan. Use some of those resources on our own border.
Speaker Gingrich, you had an ad, but you pulled it this week, in which you described Governor Romney as the most anti-immigrant candidate. Why did you do that?
Why do we describe him that way? Because I thought in the original conversations about deportation, the position I took, which he attacked pretty ferociously, was that grandmothers and grandfathers aren't going to be successfully deported. We as a nation are not going to walk into some family, and by the way, they're going to end up in a church, which will declare them a sanctuary. We're not going to walk in there and grab a grandmother out and then kick them out. We're not going to, and I think you have to be realistic in your indignation. I want to control the border. I want English to be the official language of government. I want us to have a lot of changes. I am prepared to be very tough and very bold, but I'm also prepared to be realistic because I've actually had to pass legislation in Washington, and I don't believe an unrealistic promise is going to get through, but I do believe if there's some level of humanity for people who've been here a long time, we can pass legislation that will decisively reduce illegality, decisively control the border, and will once again mean the people who are in America are here legally.
I just want to make sure I understand. Is he still the most anti-immigrant candidate?
I think of the four of us, yes.
Go ahead, Governor.
That's simply inexcusable. That's inexcusable. And actually, Senator Marco Rubio came to my defense and said that ad was inexcusable and inflammatory and inappropriate. Mr. Speaker, I'm not anti-immigrant. My father was born in Mexico. My wife's father was born in Wales. They came to this country. The idea that I'm anti-immigrant is repulsive. Don't use a term like that. You can say we disagree on certain policies, but to say that enforcing the U.S. law to protect our borders, to welcome people here legally, to expand legal immigration, as I approve, that's somehow anti-immigrant is simply the kind of over-the-top rhetoric that has characterized American politics too long. And I'm glad that Marco Rubio called you out on it. I'm glad you withdrew it. I think you should apologize for it. And I think you should recognize that having differences of opinions on issues does not justify labeling people with highly charged epithets.
I'll tell you what. I'll give you an opportunity to self-describe. You tell me what language you would use to describe somebody who thinks that deporting a grandmother or a grandfather from their family, just tell me the language. I'm perfectly happy for you to explain what language you'd use.
Mr. Speaker, I think I described following the law as it exists in this country, which is to say, I'm not going around and rounding people up and deporting them. What I said was people who come here legally get a work permit. People who do not come here legally do not get a work permit. Those who don't get work will tend over time to self-deport. I'm not going to go find grandmothers and take them out of their homes and deport them. Those are your words, not my words. And to use that rhetoric suggests to people that somehow if you're not willing to keep people here who violated the law, that you're anti-immigrant. Nothing could be further from the truth. I am pro-immigrant. I want people to come to America with skill and vitality and vibrance. I want them to come legally. There are grandmothers that live on the other side of the border that are waiting to come here legally. I want them to come here too, not just those that are already here.
Well, okay. So we've gone from your Washington attack when I first proposed this, and you said it was outrageous, it would be a magnet, to you're accepting the fact that, you know, a family's going to take care of their grandmother or their grandfather. The idea that you're going to push them out in some form by simply saying they can't go get a job, I think the grandmother's still going to be here. All I want to do is allow the grandmother to be here legally with some rights to have residency but not citizenship, so that he or she can finish their life with dignity within the law.
You know, they're not 11 million. They're not 11. Our problem is not 11 million grandmothers. Our problem is, all right. Our problem is 11 million people getting jobs that many Americans, legal immigrants, would like to have. It's school kids in schools that districts are having a hard time paying for. It's people getting free health care because we're required under the law to provide that health care. And the real concern is with people who want to come here legally. Let's let legal immigrants come here. Let's stop illegal immigration.
The rhetoric on immigration, Governor, has been intense, as you well know, as all four of you know, and anyone who watches television knows. You've had an ad running saying that Speaker Gingrich called Spanish, quote, the language of the ghetto. What do you mean by that?
I haven't seen the ad, so I'm sorry I don't get to see all the TV ads. I don't know what did he say that?
Did you say
what I said was we want everybody to learn English because we don't want, and I didn't use the word Spanish. We do not want anyone trapped in a situation where they cannot get a commercial job, they cannot rise, and virtually every parent of every ethnic group, and by the way, there are 94 languages spoken in the Miami-Dade College, 94 languages. And that's why I think English should be the official language of government, and that's why I think every young American should learn English. And my point was, no one should be trapped in a linguistic situation where they can't go out and get a job, and they can't go out and work. So I would say, as much as Governor Romney doesn't particularly like my use of language, I found his use of language and his deliberate distortion equally offensive.
I doubt that's my ad, but we'll take a look and find out. There are a bunch of ads out there that are being organized by other people, but I think our position on English in our schools and in our nation is the same, which I believe English should be the official language of the United States, as it is. I also believe that in our schools, we should teach kids in English. So when I was governor, I fought for, actually before I was governor, I fought for during my election and thereafter a program to have English immersion in our schools so our kids could learn in English. I think we agree on this, which is, you know what? Kids in this country should learn English so they can have all the jobs and all the opportunity of people who are here.